ahead, yeah. I mean, good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry this is starting a little late, so apologize for that. Um, Basically, we are here today to understand what careers can you build in MBA and obviously in specialized MBAs like ours, which is in built environment space. So, if you look at what questions I'm going to address is how to identify career that offers long-term growth, and I think very well put that what can I actually do so that I would improve my position day by day in futures to come. One thing that one must remember is that you must do a career in an industry which is a sunrise industry. Not to say that an industry which is an existing industry will not have a change, but the pace of change will be slow. So let's say today, what are the future industries? Information technology, e-commerce, because that's changing the way um, retailing is done in the country or globally. There is real estate in India, which is absolutely, maybe the press says that it's down and out, but I think we are going through a paradigm shift, and that's the industry of the future. Finance, marketing, because marketing is going to be done in a very different manner. Managing very large projects, because as the world grows very complex, you're going to see large projects which have a very, very complicated way in which they're done. So yes, project management skills. India, absolutely lack of infrastructure. There is hardly any infrastructure. You don't have proper roads, drainage, sewage, urban infrastructure, power, anything. And I think that itself will throw a lot of opportunity in the future. So my sense is that anything which has to do with the future is something that one must concentrate while one is choosing a career. And especially in the management space, there is a career which is more generalist in nature. So the more you get into management, the more these things become relevant. However, there are careers in manufacturing, there are careers in other spaces, automobiles, which also will have a different paradigm, but I think the drivers are going to be very different. So you may see that a lot of existing business also get affected by the change in technology, the change in way things are being done, and sunrise industries that I just mentioned. So I think if you have to identify a career in the long term, you should have a career which can address and enables you to address these questions and the risks of the future. And one thing that I would like to say is that learning is a continuous exercise. So should I do an MBA or a job at first? I think there are a lot of institutes today that say that MBA is a career which should be taken in after some bit of experience, while it does some kind of additional benefit. But I think in order to get to a job market, an MBA is also required. So especially in the spaces where there is lack of expertise, I think an MBA or a specialized MBA then equips you to actually enter the industry. So let's say, for example, I want to do an MBA which is specialized in, let's say, HR. Now, to get to that kind of a job, it's not easy for a graduate who's just come out of college to get to an HR job. So I think a lot of people, a lot of graduates who go out in the industry and go do jobs actually are the back-end jobs, are jobs which basically assimilate, collate various informations, make presentations, but that is, their skill is enhanced when you do an MBA. So I think it really doesn't matter, but an MBA with some bit of experience does help, but a job or MBA first is a question like a chicken and egg. I think you can do an MBA right away after you pass out of your college, because that will equip you to get to a job of your choice in a manner that is more befitting. So I think the next question is which kind of MBA programs to study, and I think this is a question which puzzles a lot of you youngsters. One thing that people are looking at is general MBA, because one school of thought is that there are a lot of MBA programs which are generalist. They can give you long-term benefit because you are equipped with basic skills to apply to any industry. And this is where I think a lot of people opt for general MBA. Obviously, there are a lot of MBA courses in the market which are positioned to a specific skill. One such specific skill that is missing in our country is skills related to built environment. I remember that there was a lot of dearth of people who could actually go and market a property, or they could actually stand in a site and manage a particular project properly. And as India urbanizes, there is a lot of urbanization that is going on. I think there are specific needs that arise in built environment sector. But before I get into that, what kind of specialist MBAs exist in this space? So there is banking and insurance, there is logistics, there is real estate, and built environment, etc., etc. I think these MBAs equip you to have a general feel of what a particular industry is about, but also equip you with management skills. So, if you have to look at a career in a particular industry which is very promising, and you kind of layer it with an MBA, I think that is the in thing. A general MBA, you would probably go into one career, and that career will possibly, you wouldn't like, you would go to the other career, and you would take a lot of time to build up, your expertise. So first, 5, 10, 15 years people spend just to know which industry is giving them a foot in the door, and then subsequently they kind of emerge as a professional in a given industry, and people go through several changes. I know marketing professionals who go from cement, they go to FMCG, they go into automobiles, and at some stage they define the career, which by then the guy who has got into the specialist industry actually is moved forward. So if you were to start in real estate, or you were to start in auto and keep continuing in that path and had a specialist MBA, you would be sitting far and several notches above people who actually go to a general MBA and then kind of discover where they want to actually lead. And that is why I think in especially developing economies like ours, I think it is important that you look at very closely look at a course which is specialized to an industry which is a sunrise industry in this case. So that is something that is something which is definitely that I would recommend. Again, just to talk about our school, we are the School of Built Environment, and when we say what is built, it is anything that humans build in terms of living spaces and the spaces that we all kind of move around. So there is city infrastructure, there are roads and other infrastructure which moves people from one cities to another. There are airports, ports, that's infrastructure. Then there is, real estate, because you are going to live in a house, you're going to work out of an office, you're going to shop in a mall, you're going to go and play in a certain stadium, you're going to store houses in, you're going to store goods in warehouses, you're going to produce out of an industry. So anything that is, human made but facilitates the environment in which humans live is built environment. And classically, we divide this into three schools: the School of Construction, School of Real Estate, School of Infrastructure. Those are the three facets of built environment. Construction industry, everything which is built obviously needs somebody to construct it, somebody to manage it. Real estate, anything which is urban, anything which is not only houses, offices, and retail malls. We include industries, golf courses, hospitals, schools. A lot of alternate asset classes are emerging, and it's a very, very exciting career down in real estate. Infrastructure, again, you would have heard the government talk about infrastructure all the time, and the kind of money that's required, the kind of expertise that's required. So I think in all, if India has to go to that developed nation, I think built environment is one space which is still has a lot of demand, and there is still acute shortage of professionals who actually have these skills to take India into the next century, and in fact beyond, and fulfill the agenda of the country. So I think when we look at what we are, there are two campuses that we have: a Noida campus, which started in 2013, Mumbai campus started early this year, and we have all three courses running. So if you look at our leadership team, there is Professor K.T. Ravindran. He comes from a wealth of experience in built environment space. He used to be with the School of Planning and Architecture. He was an architect consult for the UN buildings in New York. Has had represents this industry on several forums, including the DUAC. He was the chair of DUAC, which is Delhi Urban Arts Commission. We have Professor Joseph Thanikal, who comes again from an industry come academic background. He used to be a practicing architect, worked in Oman then for many years as the dean of a college which is called Caledonia Glasgow School. Again, world-class institution. Very lucky to have him. Dr. Raghu Swami, who used to be the CEO for ITEC, which is a joint venture between IDBI and the Karnataka government. Responsible for lot of infrastructure projects in Karnataka, including roads, airports, ports, power, a variety, and very well respected professional within the space. Myself, I come from a background of real estate. I've done advisory in the first 10 years of my life. Used to work with a company which is now called Jones Lang LaSalle, and then subsequently raised a $450 million fund called the SARE. Briefly worked with the HSBC as the head for corporate real estate and ICICI Ventures, where I was responsible for investing into northeast and south of the country. Again, very career that actually I fell into it because of my love for real estate, but I think it's been extremely rewarding career. And I think real estate as a career can give you an extremely important edge. You can live into marketing, finance, you could go into mortgage industry, you could go into a fund, you could go into facilities management, you could go into research, consulting. So within real estate, you will have several things that you could do. And it's an exciting journey. You get to travel, you get to meet a lot of people. Again, construction for people who really are driven by, a great achievement and penchant for quality, for eye for detail. I think those are the guys who can possibly take for project management. People more led by policy and finance, I think, can go into infrastructure field. So a lot of people can sort of opt for these courses. 1 second, I think, just 1 second. Moment. Sure. So I think, for the benefit of everybody, if students can sort of raise their hand at the end of this presentation, we'll be happy to take up these questions, because in between, if you're raising these questions, then I probably will not be able to handle this at this point in time. So keep your questions. I love people, would ask questions, but I think what you just need to do is possibly at the end of this presentation, raise your hand, and there'll be lots of question and answers. Very quickly, coming to careers in built environment, because I think a lot of people would have questions around what is it that I can do when I get into built environment school and what happens to me afterwards. Again, as I said, 3 schools, School of Construction, School of Real Estate, a School of Infrastructure. And there is a lot you can do in this space. I mean, you look at infrastructure, there's energy, communication, transportation, urban and rural infrastructure, social, commercial structure. So these are all what the big budgets in the government of India is spending upon. I mean, you have 100 smart cities, every city is going through a makeover, and that itself is a big draw for infrastructure professionals. You have companies, you could go and work with a PwC, KPMG, some of these, smart city mission projects. They have recruited our, people, and we have a 100% placement record, not 100%, but near 100% placement record. And that is in spite of the fact that the industry in so far is in the press not doing well. But I kind of feel that industry is going through a shift into other asset classes, which I think the press is not aware of. Again, I think if you look at real estate as a career, you could, as I said, go into a variety of disciplines, and in project management, sit with a project manager, you could sit with a contractor, you could sit with a developer. And again, careers are all around good. Some of the statistics that I think I would like to share with you, and you may have sort of, you may know this statistics for a while now, that India is building big. And when I say India is building big, there is about 2.5 billion square meters of roads, which is, a large quantity of roads. We had the earlier, excuse me, minister which said that we're going to do about 20 kilometers of road a day. That gives you the volume of so many projects in this industry. Again, 700 to 900 million square feet of space every year, which is almost, as per McKinsey report, building a Chicago. 2 crore houses to be built to kind of bridge the gap between people who don't have houses and people really, really want them all across. And 2 crore houses is almost, a figure that would total most of the economies put together, the housing requirement there. So the shortage is immense, and this number has really, in the last 15 years of my career, not really been addressed very smartly. And obviously, you've all heard of the Modi's, 100 smart cities. Our Prime Minister is very keen to make sure that this particular sector, which is smart cities, is really picking up, and he's giving money for these cities to actually become self-dependent, which is what most of the cities internationally would do, run their own budgets. Again, if you look at other statistics that may excite you, is that India is investing, capital. You have $2 trillion of investment in housing for all. There's a $2.5 billion of FDI investment in real estate that happens every year, year on year, and almost $1 trillion investment in infrastructure. Now, these are very, very significant figures. I think if you can just do the math, what it means is that all of this sector is getting a huge amount of capital. And for any industry, for any career to thrive, you should have investment in the career. There are not many industries. In fact, I don't see any other industry which is driving these kind of, investments. If you see information technology, you see, automobiles, you see other manufacturing and FMCG sectors, I dare say that the kind of investment in built environment sector alone versus all the other sectors put together would be a number of 50-50, which means that really everything else put together versus what we are going to spend over the next years on the development of the industry with the government push is going to be in built environment. So, there's an equal opportunity of all industries put together in built environment. That is the kind of opportunity that really exists. Also, if you look at what is happening to this industry, you would have heard lots of regulation coming in, Real Estate Regulation Act being one of them, GST, which is obviously General Sales Tax, Goods and Services Tax. People are required to do lots of filings today in various departments of the government. People are being more accountable. There are customers which are demanding service, and there's a lot of compliance which the government is now enforcing on even smaller businesses, because I think the business in the country which has to drive investments, these are fundamental. So whether it is demonetization, whether it is linking everything to Aadhaar cards, I think there is a whole lot of effort of the government to project that India is getting onto governance. And if I think some of you would have read newspapers, India jumped 30 notches from last year on ease of doing business, which means that India itself is now being perceived in a much better sense. One fallout was that Reliance was able to raise money at a cheaper cost in the international markets. And again, if you look at, because of all these things put together, there are a lot of corporate houses that are coming into real estate, into construction, into built environment space. You have Tatas, you have the Birlas now getting into real estate. There is Godrej, there is all kinds of people, Bharti Airtel. So the more you see players which are used to a proper set of governance and rules and businesses, I think they're now looking at this sector because there is this whole industry which is now showing promise. So while what you hear in the press is that this industry is not doing well, etc., I think it is very foolish of somebody to imagine that all these big companies are entering into this sector because there is no potential there. I think there's a huge potential which still needs to be explored by everybody. Very briefly, what is life cycle? Life cycle of any project is that you start with a concept, you do a feasibility study, you go and do acquisition of land, then you go and design, construct, maintain, and then do investment sales. That's how typically all projects have a cycle, and this is more true with real estate and infrastructure. Now, at each stage of this project, there are careers to be built. Namely, if I were to go into feasibility studies, there's a career in research, consulting, and valuation. And this is one industry which is an evergreen industry. People are always going to seek for advice before entering into any business. And they spend a lot of money, time, resources to understand what they're getting into. Is it really worth it or it is not worth it? And I think across industry, the respect for professionals comes from the fact that they can understand the situation and can really give you a solution to a problem, and they can look into the future and can really take steps at the very early stage to ward off risks. And I think that is what this career gives you. Acquisition of land, again, itself a big exercise task. The people who are well qualified and well positioned to do that. Again, if you look at the dots on this chart, they're all finance. So you would, kind of have private equity at this stage, which is the first capital that hits a project. Um, After that, when you've acquired, there is a whole process of design and development, wherein all the architects, all the people come and give you services. But I think there is a master coordinator that is required to coordinate all these and get to the right design of a particular product. And I think that is the heart of what real estate is and any infrastructure project is, that you really need to then, from the concept of a feasibility study, put this into a paper and say that this is exactly how um, you know um, the things can go. Again, construction, a lot of professionals in construction industry would do that. Repair, maintenance, huge amount of requirement in this sector, because a lot of people get into facilities management, which is itself a very, very large subject of discussion. Because I think facilities management, we can build all of this. India can build all of this, but can you really maintain all of this? I think that's a challenge we're all facing. And obviously, after the investment, there is obviously one thing, which is to say that everything that has been built has to be again transacted, and there's a huge amount of REIT markets, secondary sales markets that are coming in. Again, jobs roles after this MBA: project development, project management, quantity surveying, cost management, contracting, FM, banks. The one in lighter blue are more on construction side, but if you look at the purple, there is all housing, mortgage. There is business development, valuations, leasing, research, a host of careers in capital markets. And I say facilities management is really going to have lots of opportunities. So is going to be sales and marketing. And again, project development and consultancy is what infrastructure would really offer you. So there are a plethora of jobs which you can take up. There are a plethora of rules that you can actually, a plethora of job profiles that you can actually get into once you get a qualified MBA degree from School of Built Environment. We do a number of courses. Again, there is obviously one thing that is very good about built environment is that you can become an entrepreneur. And several, there are at least 4 or 5 ventures that have actually went out of the school, and students actually, pulled off those ventures because they had the knowledge and they had the ability and courage to sort of get in there. And our team has actually incidentally won the best entrepreneur idea award at the IIT Bombay last year. Again, we've secured #1 position amongst all the Amity school and university competition. So this school actually inculcates a lot of entrepreneurial thinking and helps, in a